Hey, Johnny, how are you doing today, sir?
Doing wonderful, Mike. How are you doing, man?
I'm incredible. I am so excited about what we're going to talk about today. We had such a good podcast last time, talking about the money's not a retirement plan and tools, and we got into sports analogies. You talked about having a good offense and a good defense, and we're going to kind of keep that going today. That's what I guess that's why I'm so excited. Is we're talking about having some of your money in the market versus having your money in safe alternatives that you provide to your clients, and how that kind of just continues this offensive defensive analogy that we've been talking about. So why don't you dive into that and talk about the differences between having money in the market versus safe money alternatives?
Yeah, this is so true, and it kind of continues from money's beginning of a retirement plan, and then one of the tools we need to use. It's not the whole thing, and going along the aspects of the money once again is um, money in the market is great. Historically, the stock market. I mean, if you just look at it, it's obviously grown more than anything out there. It's
Yeah.
historically, but as we get older in retirement, we need to begin to think, and even before we're retiring, man, how do I make sure that when I get to that point, and we use this analogy of sports last week, that I can score a lot of points still, but I can also have some defense going, and we look historically at any sports: hockey, football, baseball, basketball. Baseball's probably my favorite, football's next, but usually the high octane offenses, yeah, they might win a year or two. You might see an NFL Super Bowl or a World Series here and there from just this huge team that can outscore everybody. In baseball, 8-6.
Yeah.
Football, they average 35, 40 points, but generally top 10 defensive teams, top five defensive teams, when you look at the stats at the end of the year, they're the ones that win championships.
Yeah.
It's very hard to win with no defense at all. And so, we're younger. We're just told chase return, score as many points as you can, score as many points as you can, put as many points on the board as you can, many runs as you can. But if you don't have a pitching staff, you don't have any relievers on the back end, you're going to probably lose when it comes crunch time in the playoffs
Yeah.
more often than not.
That's right.
And so, um, that's where we need to be at, is taking a look at our toolbox, our retirement, our money, and
Yeah.
say, hey, am I totally maybe just chasing returns in the market at this stage in my life? Maybe it's time to start signing some defensive players.
Yeah.
Bringing some defense on my retirement team here,
Yeah.
because um, uh, it's hard to continue to score 35 points or put up 8 or 9 runs a game in baseball for retirement. It isn't going to happen. You're going to lose, and next thing you know, you've been swept and you're out of the playoffs, and then your team is done. And so
Yeah.
let's look at the safe money alternatives to complement a solid offense.
Yeah.
You still need to have an offense, but would you rather lose 45-31 like the Lions did this year, or would you rather win the NFL championship, the Super Bowl, 13-10?
That's right.
I'm going to rather win. Man, I didn't get as many points, but I won the game.
That's right. And
You
that's
know,
that's what it's about, is retiring at new heights is winning the game. And
absolutely.
every game is different. Every client has their own puzzle box, as you've talked about, and every strategy that you have, Johnny, has to be applied to each individual person. And the difference between money in the market and safe money alternatives is that offensive defensive, because your safe money alternatives that you help a lot of your clients get into is it's kind of that defensive approach to protect, yet at the same time they can have an offensive component to them sometimes, but it's that safety and security. For instance, if the Lions go into next football season and the commissioner comes up to them, now this would never happen, but if he did, and he says, hey guys, if you play a defensive strategy most of the year but you have a good offense, you're going to win the Super Bowl, and I'm just going to guarantee it. In fact, here are the rings. But you've got to play. You've got to be smart. You got to play offense, but you got to have a strong defense as well. Do you think they would go, well, okay, or do you think they'd go, nope, 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 we're going to do it our way. We're going to do it our way. They want the rings, right? In
They want the ring.
retirement, we want the ring of retirement, and Johnny can help you get that.
Yeah, and it's once again, it's changing our mindset. Once again, it's you. having an offense is great, and you can be aggressive, and you can do all those things to get runs on the board, to get some touchdowns. You do all those things, but you have got to begin to develop a defense. If you don't
Yeah.
have one at all, you just got to begin to develop a defense. And once again, your point production might come down some, but what you're giving up on the back end is coming down even above that.
Yeah.
And so, and it's amazing, we deal with things, annuities and different type of products that can be more safe money, guaranteed type things to provide income for folks. Those are some great vehicles and tools to do that with. And we've talked about those in the past, even some life insurance type concepts, along with all those things, safer investment vehicles to build up your defense, because we hear all this, we're going to get you the best returns. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. Don't put money over here. It's stupid. Don't put money. It's not stupid if you win the Super Bowl.
That's
You know
right.
what I mean? It's
Well,
not stupid if you win 13-10 versus losing 45-31. I'm
that's
sorry,
right.
it's not. And so
Well,
I don't care that you scored 35. You lost.
that's right.
You
That's
know?
right. And too many times people look at offense and defense as, different things. But I don't know who said this quote, but it's been around forever. The best offense is a good defense.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're right.
And and the same thing applies in sports, but it applies to retirement planning. You can have a great offensive strategy, but if you don't have that defensive strategy there to protect you in case of a downturn, okay? It's kind of like I always love it, Johnny, in football when the field goal kicker, he kicks the field goal and something happens and the other team intercepts it. It doesn't go through the field goal. They intercept it somehow, right? Or a punter, all the guys on the field miss the guy running the ball back, and you've got this punter back here going, "Oh, I'm going to get him," and they slide. They do because he's not a good defensive player, right? That's not what he's paid to do. But I've seen other people get intercepted, and they turn around and there's like three or four linemen and a back going, "You ain't going anywhere." Because they understand that they have to turn from being an offensive player to a defensive player that fast to protect the game. And that's really what you're talking about here. It's not that you're against money in the market. You just need to make sure that you have a defensive strategy that's set up that gives you peace of mind and protection throughout retirement. Then you can play your games and have all kinds of fun, but you're playing both with offense and defensive strategies. And that's how you work with your clients, right?
No, you're exactly right, because let's face it, offense, whether it's baseball, football, any sport, basketball, man, it's more beautiful to watch. It's a
It
funner
is.
game. You know what I
It
mean?
is.
It just is, because you're like, oh, well, look at all these points and all this and that. And I'll unfortunately use the Lions again because we were so excited this year. They went 15-2 in the regular season, got a bye. We're gonna play home game in the second round. But that offense was not good enough. They gave
Yeah.
up 45 points because their defense gave up so much, and they lost in the first game they had in the playoffs this year. Their offense just could not keep pace. And eventually, when it comes into the playoffs of your life, the retirement part of your life, if you're still just zeroing in, I can outscore everybody. You cannot.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, defensive teams with a decent or very good defense will win the championships.
Yeah.
You
Yeah. I
know,
heard a wise man was talking to me one time about retirement planning and things, and he said it's not Michael. It's um how did he say this? It's less important how much you save and more important how much you keep. And that was
yep.
an offensive and defensive statement that has really influenced my life and how I approach retirement is I don't need to have $18 million, right? I need to make sure I have enough to keep to have guaranteed income, to have legacy, all of that, but it's a both and equation. And I think some people want to say it's either or.
No,
I
it's a mixture. Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's what I want
Absolutely.
people to really understand that had the Lions had a mixture, a good mixture, they could be going to the Super Bowl soon, right? But maybe next year they're in a rebuilding year. And if you're trying to rebuild your retirement plan, well, Johnny's a great coach to help you do that. And we've got a lot more analogies coming up in the next episode, I'm sure. But um, it's really understanding that the stock market at one level is another tool in your toolbox, right? It's where does it fit in your puzzle? How do you use it? How do you use it properly? How do you protect against the downsides? All of that. And it's just one component because you still have to factor in taxes. You have to factor in long-term care, Social Security. All of that plays into your retirement plan so that you can retire at new heights, which is what Johnnie helps you do. So, I mean, I love these conversations, Johnnie. They just get me going and juiced up, and I want to keep going and keep going and keep going. But I think it's more important for people to stop listening to us and to say, go get a copy of Johnnie's book, retireatnewheights.com. You can get a copy of his book. Schedule a time to talk with him. Let him understand your situation and what kind of game you're playing for retirement so that Johnnie can help you build a very good offensive and defensive strategy with the retirement funds that you've worked so hard to get together. So, good summary, Johnnie. Does that work?
I think that works, man. Absolutely. It's man, let's still put points on the board, but let's begin to develop a defense because it doesn't have to be one or the other,
Yeah,
but it's market, safe money. Let's get a balance in your portfolio and your retirement planning that you're going to be able to win, especially during the playoff time. Playoff time is crunch time, it's retirement time. Remember, you lose in the playoffs, it's one and done. The
yeah,
regular season, I can lose 2 or 3 games, but I can still end up with a winning record, right?
time. Yeah,
Retirement time, man, it can be one and done if you're not prepared right. And
that's
so
great.
build both so you can be successful and advance every round as you get older during retirement. So no one and done's, Mike. We don't want that.
No, we don't want that at all. So, all right, Johnny, great episode. Love the information. Love all the analogies. We're coming back next week with another acrostic, another way for your clients to create what we would call a giant retirement. So, if that's of interest to you, tune in next week for another episode of Johnny's magnificent podcast. Check him out, retire at newheights.com. Johnny, we'll see you next week.
All right. See you soon, Mike.